Did you know, fairest of video watcher, that the Dynasty Warriors series, the games that hit mega popularity by being a one-man army simulator, actually had their very humble beginnings as a 3D fighting game on the PlayStation 1? And since I run a series where I look for the worst fighting game of all time, and since I mentioned it in a recent video, the one on Undead Knights, check it out if you haven't already, I figured it was time to take a look. So, Dynasty Warriors, a 1997 release in the United States and Japan, and a 1998 release for PAL regions. This title was quite the departure for Koei at the time, since most of their historically set games were strategy games, most popularly the Romance of the Three Kingdoms series, which has the same setting, and Nobunaga's Ambition, a similar title but set during the Sengoku Jidai era of Japan. This game doesn't really have a straightforward story of any sorts, outside the historical setting, which takes place after the fall of the Han Dynasty into, of course, the Three Kingdoms era of China. At a base, in-game, you have 10 warriors to play as, 3 from Shu, 3 from Wei, 3 from Wu, and 1 non-aligned character selectable at the start. Shu, of course, gets the classic triumvirate of Zhao Yun, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei. Wei comes out of the gates with Jia Dun, Dian Wei, and Zhu Shu. Wu steps forward with Lu Jun, Zhou Yu, and Taishitsu. Bam! Ready for it that time. And Diao Chan is the one unaffiliated character that is initially playable. Give the game some credit, it actually does feature a good amount of modes to play around in. Arcade versus team battle, tournament training, and an endurance mode too. Maybe I'm just playing too many older games that have far less features than this, but I consider it impressive regardless, I don't know. Or maybe I'm just stretching for more lines to add to this review. Regardless, this stuff is nice, even if all I do for these videos is play the arcade mode a few times. In the arcade ladder, you'll pick your respective ancient Chinese warrior, and you'll promptly do battle with the warriors of the other factions. Gameplay-wise, Dynasty Warriors is a weapon-based fighter, not too dissimilar from Soul Edge, which came out a few years prior. You kind of fight on a 3D-ish plane, with your basic movement all being oriented to your opponent's position. You can sidestep, making the game fully 3D, but this is done via a button command and not via the D-pad. Attack-wise, you have thrust and slash, covered by 2 face buttons. Of course, doing these buttons in combination gives you a bunch of different attacks to utilize in battle, on top of various other inputs leading you to other different kinds of attacks for your character. Defense-wise, your blocking is achieved via just standing there or holding away from your opponent like in Tekken, but an interesting addition to your defense is having 2 different parry buttons mapped to your face buttons, which, honestly, these are kind of the crux of the game. You have a parry for both thrust and slash attacks. Successful use of either parry will deflect your opponent's attack, leaving them fully open to a quick counter of any kind, which is the easiest way to open up your opponent in-game, provided you can master this mechanic, that is. Down here in the corner is your chi gauge, another very important part of this game, of course. This gauge is basically constantly in flux due to a multitude of factors in-game. Your chi meter increases when you're attacking, advancing on your foe, parrying their attack, or by winning a weapon clash, which is basically just a mash fest. It decreases, however, whenever you run away from your opponent, get parried, or you lose the aforementioned clash. I guess Guilty Gear must have stolen this. When your chi meter is full and flashing like this, you now have access to your 2 Musu attacks, once again slash and thrust respectively. These are your big, flashy super attacks that do a ton of damage. They can also be snapped out almost instantly, which makes them very good for feints against the AI. You have a grab too, of course, but okay, am I weird for thinking it's kind of fucked up that by default the grab is mapped to square triangle? Wouldn't square X be a bit more intuitive here? Your Muso attack can also be executed when your health drops into the red. Guess Tekken 7 stole this for Rage Arts. Dynasty Warriors was apparently way ahead of its time mechanically. I did a bit of training mode first, since obviously it's a good way to figure out your moves, but having the actual manual in front of you is also a very big help. To mildly go off topic for a bit, the manual for this one is pretty cool. It gives you details on the lead up to the setting of the game, and is probably the only fighting game manual I've seen that gives you a flowchart on how a tournament fighter works. Thanks game, I never would have known otherwise. It even elucidates you on the game's various stages and their historical significance of the Three Kingdoms era, alongside their locations on a very simplified map of China. Most importantly though, the manual gives you bios for each of the warriors, while also including a handful of their moves. Each also gives names to their weapon, which, not gonna lie, my guy Dian Wei got the short end of the spear here. Just look at this. Spear of Shadow, Crescent Glaive, Cobra, Spectrum Sword. Battle Axe for him, I guess. The rest have good names too, it's ridiculous, man. Mortal Thorns, Ancestral Sword, Phantom Sword, Steel Tusks, Enchanted Maces. Motherfucker, those are maracas. Anyway, in arcade mode, you'll work your way through the enemy warriors from your rival kingdoms, on top of Diao Chan, of course. Unless you're playing her, which I don't know who she fights in that case. Graphically, for the time at least, the character models are all really solid. Look pretty decently animated too. While the models look fine, I do think the icons look just a little bit funny. These stages, though, genuinely just looks like they took a picture, de-resed it a bit, and slapped it into the game. They are fucking hideous. Mechanically, everything works just fine, albeit a bit stiff in my opinion. It certainly takes some precise button pressing to ensure the proper technique you want comes out properly, though it is pretty easy to get into a good rhythm with them. Parrying takes a bit of effort to learn properly too, but with enough practice, it's completely reliable. If you're just trying to clear the arcade mode, though, you can do fine without the parries. Overall, everything works just fine. I guess I expected way worse or something. I mean, I don't know why I did. Koei's a good company. Well, obviously they were trend chasing a bit by creating a 3D fighting game, which was the style at the time. It's clear they put in some decent work here. It's fine. Sound and music-wise, this game's pretty good. I like a lot of the tracks. They're definitely very worth listening to. And I'm pretty sure the sounds in this game have lasted far beyond the first Dynasty Warriors game, too. Outside of the default cast, there are also a handful of unlockable characters that you'll fight, too. There are 6 of these hidden characters, some serving as bosses for the arcade mode. There is 1 additional character per kingdom on top of 4 non-aligned fighters, which bumps the roster up to a total of 16. Serving as arcade mode mid-bosses, Shu sends forth Zhuge Liang if you're playing as a Wei warrior, while both Shu and Wu will do battle with the ever-ambitious Cao Cao of Wei. Additionally, you can unlock Sun Shang Xiang, the game's other lady warrior, and a Wu representative. The super secret characters, which require a lot of playtime to unlock, are Oda Nobunaga and Tokichi, better known as Toyotomi Hideyoshi. When I read Tokichi, my only frame of reference for that name was Nobunaga's monkey from Sengoku Ranch, so I thought this game had an unlockable monkey character. Imagine my disappointment. Somewhat more disappointing is the fact that these two are just model swaps of Cao Cao and the game's final boss. The final boss of Dynasty Warriors 1 is... I mean, come on, it should be obvious if you've ever touched a game in this series. Who else would it be? Yeah, it's Liu fucking Boo. Truthfully, he doesn't quite have the same terrifying presence he had in later games, but trust me, this is still the same Liu Boo that put the fear of God in you. He's brutal as all hell. A damn SNK boss, as is fighting game tradition, really. It took me quite the number of attempts to take this guy down, but I did it. Twice even. Your reward for clearing an arcade mode is your character's respective ending. Ion Ways is actually pretty funny, I won't lie. Clearing arcade mode with the game's various characters is also how you unlock the game's various other hidden characters too, so you have a reason to try and learn as many people as possible so you can get all the content that's there, but that's about it, honestly. Another fighting game, so another entry on the search for the worst of all time, but where to place this one on the list? Well, I think I can slot this one in as the new number 8. Really, this is just a fine game. The worst I could say about it is that the stages are ugly and the combat can be kind of stiff. It's a perfectly acceptable fighter, though. Definitely not as good as contemporaries like Soul Edge and later Soul Calibur titles, though. Though, I think if anything would have helped this game at all, it would have been the addition of a kick button. Just a quick attack you can throw in to try to interrupt your opponent's more slower strikes, but at that point, I might as well just go play Soul Calibur, huh? Koei would never improve on their fighting game formula for Dynasty Warriors, though, since with the series' second entry, the game evolved in a completely different direction. For the better, I would say. Because as much as I enjoy fighting games and would have liked to see how this one might have evolved here and there really is nothing like a good Musou game. But you can see a lot of the game's various attacks and mechanics would be carried over from this fighting game into the hack and slash titles. So even though the fighting game dream died after 1, it was sort of the foundation for its eventual evolution. That's the end of this one, though. As always, dearest of viewers, my name is HadesManticore, and this here channel is CityStateManticore. Thanks a ton for watching if you did. I'd very much appreciate a like and a comment of any kind, really. Be sure to subscribe too, since as always, there's more content to come. I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.